Today we will be discussing the history, present goals, as well as the bright future of Yosemite Clean Energy from the perspective of its founders. With me today are the three founders and visionaries behind Yosemite Clean. Each of these gentlemen have been instrumental in the company's inception and growth. And with that, I welcome Tom Hobby, Robert Jackson, and Lauren DeBerkey. So, kind of just start us off, how do you guys know each other? How did your paths cross? And anyone can kind of pick this question up to start us off.
Well, I'll start it off, but I think I'll have to limit myself because I've known Lauren for over 40 years. I think, is it 44 to be exact? I'm not counting, but since junior high school. Lauren and I have quite a history of both relationally from days playing basketball together. My dad's basketball team was the senior high team that we played on, had a championship season, '83. But we've had a lot of life's crossovers in life since high school, actually. And Lauren went to Fresno State, I went to Cal Poly, but we stayed connected there. We stayed connected, and we actually spent a summer together as interns in Washington, D.C. in '86. So our lives kind of crossed there. We have lots of fun stories from that summer's experience. I worked for Senator Wilson. He worked for Congressman Coelho, which is from Merced. So that was another touch point. And then we had a Christmas tree lot for, I think, 5 years, Lauren, was it, at your dad's Pioneer Market? We basically we lived to tell about, I think, Lauren's first year of marriage. I had to do a lot of repentance to his wife because I took him on a tree cutting adventure to Plumas County, Quincy, and we got stuck in the snow for how many days, Lauren, trying to get a contract?
I don't know. That was an adventure, though.
So we survived that, and Lauren's marriage, thankfully, he's got 30 plus years on the book, so he survived, getting lost with Tom Hobby, which isn't the only group of people that I've had on a rabbit chase before. So we lived to tell about that. But really, Lauren and our friendship really has been solidified by our faith. Lauren was involved with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, which I supported when he was at Fresno State, and I, was in youth ministry with the Vineyard Christian Fellowship in San Luis and Cambria for about 7 years. So our lives just have always crossed, and I'll stop there with Lauren and maybe let him tell a story about me that maybe I want to hear, maybe I don't.
Yeah, how did you guys meet Rob? Rob, where did you come into the story, Yosemite's origin story?
Well, let's see. I met Tom probably around 94 or so. He was teaching high school in our local high school. And I knew him. I knew his wife, and I've been hearing about him, and so I was looking forward to meeting him. And when he came to town, it was great. So we've been friends ever since. Done many things together, and Lauren and I, we were in class at the Mennonite Biblical Seminary. I don't know what years was that, Lauren?
I think it was in the 90s.
Okay, so it goes way back.
Guys, I said it's a small world when you get it. Like, for example, Rob, before I met him, some really good friends of mine from San Luis, Rob's father-in-law and mother-in-law were their pastors in Philadelphia like 50 years ago. So that's how I met a connection to Rob's family. So it's just amazing how small the world is when you really.
Yeah, that's crazy. So now that go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, I was just going to say the common denominator we all have is we both come from small towns. Of course, Tom and I are from Mariposa, and then Rob from Kingsburg. So we've had this similar small town community experience. So we've also tasted some of what community can be when people work together, and I think that's something we've all had in common.
Yeah, I definitely feel that that's in the bones of Yosemite Clean. And going off of that, maybe, Tom, this is best for you. What is Yosemite Clean's vision? Like, what encouraged you to launch this company into where it is today?
Really, it goes back to when I was here, 20 plus years ago and teaching in Kingsburg. I was always, loved forestry. My family's got multi-generations in the forest sector and logging and ranching and mining and about 7 generations in the Sierras. But when I got to finish high school and looking at, university, I just didn't see a career path in forestry. I just saw the forest industry declining. And I was a bit, sad about that, to be honest. And I remember, I applied to Cal Poly to do agribusiness because I just saw more opportunity. But I never lost the love for the forest. And it took about 10 years of kind of out of school and doing different things that I really kind of fought hard to think about what I really wanted to, kind of see my life be down the road, 20 years, 30 years. And I had kind of a bit of a, what do you call, aha moment in Kingsburg, actually. And it kind of inspired me to see that, I need to go back into forestry. I really need to go to my love and things that I really feel called to. And in particular, I just saw these forests overgrown and kind of dying. Even then, I said, we got to do something to better manage and sustainably manage these forests. So I went back to school. I looked at quite a few different universities, and I ended up in Victoria, British Columbia. Got a degree in economics, focused on forestry, and really on wildfire hazard reduction and the economics of that. And what that led me to is kind of the solution to the research problem was bioenergy. And so I think I've told you guys this story before, but I got the nickname Time Bomb Tom by doing this research study for the Canadian British Columbia government. And when I put it in the library, it was kind of the antithesis of what they had said about all the communities being prepared for these wildfires. And I basically said that the way that they inventoried and way they modeled were really not accurate. And when they asked me the truth of are we ready for the next fire season, I said no, we're sitting on a time bomb. Well, that kind of got me good and bad press. Got me a lot of people asking, well, why do you think this? And I was get on some other boards that help spawn other technology companies to use biomass, and I started consulting and helping other groups like Yosemite look at biomass projects. So I work with tribes, work with some forest companies, all the time, just trying to basically see what would be I call it the best horse to ride. And so probably in 2014, I was working with an investment group in Victoria, BC, and this company came to give a pitch to us for money and said, hey, we have this technology called gasification. We can make diesel, we can make heat and power. There's all these things, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And this group that I was working with were too busy to take on this new investment in their portfolio, but I really liked the company. I said, hey, can I get out of my umbrella agreement and can I chase this company? So I did. So that led me to about a year later, they needed a CEO. The gentleman that was there had some family issues back in Australia. And so that got me into the technology side. And we worked together there in Canada for about 3 years at the University of British Columbia. Helped develop a patent for gas cleaning and gasification, and really learned about this core technology in Austria that we're using today. So fast forward, sorry I'm going long here, but
No.
probably 2015, 16, I was talking to Rob, and I'm not sure exactly when I started talking to Lauren, but I got to the point where we really looked at setting up a development company to do bioenergy here in California using the Canadian technology. And without going on a long story, it just didn't work out. What they were requiring in California, what my Canadian company really had to offer, it wasn't really a good fit. It kind of led to my exit, and it was the best blessing in disguise because instead of having a pretty challenging board and situation, I had really two partners and brothers that I could trust, and we started building this company from the ground up. And it's been a kind of a beautiful story of relationship. Taking a vision for helping people in communities, and really, Lauren's background with helping disadvantaged communities and people that are been under-resourced to find hope and healing, and back in a place in the marketplace, and then just Rob being boots on the ground farmer and seeing the pain points of farming, and then me going from a forest community that really kind of I watched die and seeing it have a chance to bring life again. So that was a long story of the genesis and kind of the motivation. And I think it's really a connection of head and heart. I think it's a calling that I feel called to, and I found other people like Lauren and Rob both have strong callings in their families and their communities. And I think when we have a kind of a bottom-up approach with communities, I think we're going to see amazing things happen with Yosemite Clean.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive into that bottom-up approach. But as you mentioned, your area is definitely forest stewardship, and then we also have the forests, California forests, and communities. For you, Rob, how do you think Yosemite Clean will best benefit California farmers? What challenges do they face right now that you see Yosemite Clean providing an answer for?
Well, first of all, the farm economies are cyclical, and So some years they're really good, and then they're good too long, and then farmers overplant. This is what's happened in the almond industry. We overplant a commodity that's doing really good, and then there's a decade of bad or poor prices, and then you throw in worldwide economies and those struggles. It can add a lot of stress to the farm economy. So to maintain an economically sustainable farm economy, we need added income or different sources of income. And the pain point for ag right now in the fruit, tree, and the nut industry is that we're not allowed to burn when we have orchards that have expired or have fulfilled their useful economic life. We push them, and then all of that wood we would normally burn. And it's a lot of energy, and so to see that that wood can be transformed into a valuable asset that can not only benefit new revenue streams for the ag industry, but can also provide low or zero emission fuels for our ecological goals in our society, is all the better. So it's a win-win both for the consumer and the farm industry to be able to use our waste biomass and turn it into high valuable fuels.
No, exactly. And I definitely think right now, too, we need an answer other than burning biomass, because nobody wants to see more smoke in the air, especially in California. But on a bit more broader scale, Lauren, how do you see Yosemite Clean partnering with local, more under-resourced communities?
Yes, I think one of the big areas that have been a challenge for us, not just here in Fresno, but throughout the Central Valley, and we're seeing this in local foothill communities and mountain communities as well, is just the high unemployment rates. We're seeing a lot of people struggling to find work. Even when the economic recovery happens, the Central Valley and small towns often get left out. And so because of those factors, when people aren't working and having meaningful jobs, it affects the entire neighborhood. It affects communities and families. And so we really see an opportunity here to partner with local agencies and educational institutions to really help people break out of poverty and find meaningful jobs in the green energy sector. And to do that, we want to come alongside these agencies, these organizations that we're already working with here in Fresno, and they're all over California, to really give people that have barriers to employment or people that have been left out of some of the economic recovery opportunities to work and find meaningful jobs.
Definitely. And, I feel like a lot of time we see companies have this very top-down approach, like a company coming into one of these communities you mentioned and saying, this is what we're going to do to help, rather than asking, how we can help them. And so how is Yosemite Clean going to be different in that way?
Well, the first thing we have to do is we really have to sit down with some of the leaders of every community that we partner with, and find out what are some of the key social issues that they're struggling with. We don't want to come in with solutions. We don't want to do things for people. We want to work with people, and we practice that model. We try to do something here in our own neighborhood where there's a lot of economic disparity and challenges, and we use something called asset-based community development, which is a way of sitting down at the table and saying, what are the strengths and what are the skills, what are the opportunities that lie in each one of these communities? Because we already know good things are happening. We just want to help them better their communities. And so to do that, we're going to have to listen. We're going to have some sessions with different players and different community leaders, and find out how can we partner together to make your community healthier and thrive.
Exactly. And I think there's so many different, niche communities within the greater community. Tom, are there any specific communities or groups of people that you've really found a beneficial partnership with, maybe like a fire safe council or tribe or NGO?
Yes, I mean we have a real vision for the tribes, the First Nations, and the First Peoples here. I've done quite a bit of consulting over my last 20 years and research work with the tribes and First Nations. I've written a little bit about land stewardship with some other tribal members. And, when we look back on the land, I just heard this quote in Glasgow, like, 90% of, the world, as far as the globe, is in the hands of indigenous peoples, which is still a fraction. I think maybe less than 5% are indigenous peoples, but we have this huge land base. So they've been connected to the land for, millennia, and they still have a kind of a more of a, I call it a humble anthropomorphism. They're really more centered on, the whole, not just taking and extracting the resource and not giving back. I think they have a little bit of a precautionary principle that, hey, we want to be intentional with what we use in resources. So I like partnering with them because I think they have a kind of a more holistic approach that I think we're seeing in the world being more resonating with what sustainability really means. So we're definitely interested in the tribes. We are working with tribes in both Oroville and in Tuolumne County. We have them on our radar, and we're very, thankful that we can, partner with them. And also, the state of California has these fire safe councils pretty much in every community, sometimes more than one in a county. So we're definitely engaged with the Butte Fire Safe Council. And in Tuolumne County, it's the Highway 108 Fire Safe Council. So they're really catalysts to help smaller landowners and communities that are really at, the threat of high fuel hazards and, seeing fires like the Paradise Fire and others get a handle on how we start thinning and protecting these communities. So that's definitely our vision, to work with the communities and with the tribes. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to be, a bottom-up type of approach of a company, which, again, we don't just come in with all the solutions. We start with the people that are local, work with them. We're actually providing ownership opportunities to be owned by the local community. So I think it resonates well to be really a community-based kind of movement, more than just a company. I see a groundswell of people really wanting to take hold of this and take ownership of the projects that we're helping to catalyze.
No, definitely. I think, there's so many different elements of partnership that we're going to see in the future. And now that we have a bit of a more understanding of the past and present of Yosemite Clean, where do you gentlemen see this company in, let's say, 15 years? Anyone can take this question on.
Well, let me just mention a little more what Tom was saying, and that's from the bottom up. We really like to be owned by the people who are managing and owning the biomass. And it's more than just creating a cooperative type feel. It's really about long-term economic sustainability and the democratization of our energy, local supply of energy. And it's really about returning the most back to the communities in which we're serving. So there's not a lot of profit that you can squeeze out of a ton of wood. And so if the plants are owned by outside sources, those profits will be going out of the community. And the forest stewardship work that we want to see happen and the economic sustainability that we want to add to the farm communities will in large part be lost if it's not owned locally. And so that's the reason why that we want to be locally owned, is to bring economic sustainability and the profits back to the communities. And when that happens, the multiplication factor of money boosts the local economy. So in 15 years, when people start realizing that their liability, their waste, is actually a new asset and is really the mineral right of the future, when that catches on, we believe that we'll be able to harness the sentiment of the biomass owners. We'll have the goodwill of the consumers because our products are not carbon negative, and I think we'll multiply our plants so that we can process and transform our biomass, which would really take hundreds of plants to do just in California. But we see this going nationwide, and so that's our vision.
And really, again, we're starting with just kind of the DNA of being, again, locally based. As we know, we have, sustainability is kind of high, not only from the forest side of, forest management, but really zero emission and carbon negative fuels. And I just want to say, our model for probably nearly 500 years has been a colonial model. Everything from governance to business, and we've led to a kind of environmentally a collapse globally because of that model. And I think we're seeing that, in the next decade, really, there's this push globally that we need to shift how we live. And some of the tools that Yosemite is going to be able to partner with others to really is how to identify and to monitor and to verify the sustainability pieces that we can do through, I call it our stump to pump. So I'd love to be able to tell our story of what we're doing in these communities of thinning the forests and working on the farms and taking that back to the consumer and saying that, look, your choices as a consumer make a difference. And the monies that are, generated from these enterprises are making a difference beyond just somebody at a boardroom collecting a profit that's, reporting shares. It's really about value to the community. So what I'm saying is I see a transformation of companies like ours with what the world's kind of seeing is like we need a different model for business, for governance, especially with our natural resources. And I think we can be a part of that movement by demonstrating with our little, if we get 100 plants across America in the next 15 years, 100 points of light, that every community can have a great testimony and a story of how we took a problem and made it a beautiful solution and people that benefit. And really from that, who knows what will happen. So really exciting to be a part of this movement. And I just feel like we're at the kind of the beginning of this, groundswell. We're just coming out of the ground with announcing our public announcements of our first plant in the press release here a couple of weeks ago, and more great things to come as we find great people to work with us and really share our vision. And I think that's the part too. It's not, our company per se. It's really a vision for something that's bigger than ourselves. And when people capture that, then I think it just draws people to participate, and then it just begins to have a growth that's exponential because it's the right thing and people believe in it. And then it's not pushing into the marketplace. You're just being drawn into this great adventure and seeing good things happen. So I just feel privileged and blessed to be able to work with great people, have an opportunity for such a time as this, and we want to be intentional in all we do so that the people along with us just feel that it is something beyond business here. This is really not only a calling, but something we're, I think, supposed to do as humans, and even at a spiritual level, something that I think we're created to be. So with that, very excited to be here.
Did you have anything to add to that, Lauren?
I'll just say I'm looking forward to the day where I can go to bed at night not worrying about our town burning down or our family business being threatened by another out-of-control wildfire. But beyond that, I think what we want to do is join a movement, Maxine, where we think doing business, we can do it differently, that we can balance not just economic development and profit, which is important, but also combine the environmental stewardship along with empowering all people, especially those people that maybe have been disadvantaged or left out. We want to be intentional about that. And so combining those three things, we hope more and more businesses will do so that everybody can prosper, and not just the Central Valley, but California and beyond can benefit.
No, exactly. And it's definitely a good point I think that you guys all have made, is that a lot of these things are not mutually exclusive. I think partnerships and being economically feasible and also good for the community, those aren't, one or the other. They're things that can be done together and done well. And I really want to respect your guys' time. I know we're a few minutes over here, but I just wanted to really thank you guys for giving a little bit of insight into Yosemite Clean's origin story and your purpose and what you hope to see in the future. And I just want to say thank you for that. And I hope you guys enjoyed just chatting a bit.
Thank you. It's been a great interview.
Thanks, Maxine.
Have a wonderful rest of your day, you guys.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
Maxine.